Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast this evening. It promises to be an exciting one. And for me, generally, anything that's got to do with money is likely to be a very exciting conversation that we need to have. And we've got some very special guests today. Today is a special webinar, and we'll be talking about investing in the Nigerian capital market. Now, how did we get here? How did we get to this point? Over the last sort of few weeks, I've been working on a particular project as an associate fellow of the Academy of International Affairs. I was looking at the diaspora, and I sent out this questionnaire to a group of people, more of a focus group, just to try to understand the mindset of the diaspora to investment in Nigeria and investments in people who want to invest back home. And one of the questions and the response I got actually shocked me. I asked that how many people in the diaspora were interested in investing in Nigeria, and how many people would want to do that within the next 12 months. And a very significant number of people responded to that questionnaire. Over 50% actually responded to the questionnaire and said, yes, they wanted to invest in Nigeria and they would consider investing in Nigeria. And it hits me that potentially there is something much bigger here, because the narrative that we've always dealt with is the narrative that the Nigerian market is not ready, is the narrative that Nigeria is a very difficult place to invest in. And I thought that if that be the case, maybe we should do something. And as Providence would have it, Mr. Tinolu Gabriel reached out to me and said to me that, hey, Akin, we've got this investment thing that we're doing. And he talked to me about it. And I said, look, is it true? Because I've heard of all these things. And he gave me the usual sort of narrative, which was, yes, it's true, this thing is working. And for me, the acid test was always this: do you have your money there? And he said to me, he said, yes, I have my money there. And I said, okay, if you have your money there, are you making a profit? Is it working for you? He said it's working for him. So I decided that I would do something similar. Uh, I also chose to put some money in there. And then I started to see the returns. And at that point, I said to myself, okay, now I can have a conversation, because I can say to people, I've tested it, I've got my money there, it's working, and we can show people what they need to do there. So I wouldn't say by any means that I am a financial expert, but the good news is that we've got the financial experts in the house who can talk about this particular area. And there are loads of people here who I'm sure will have questions that they want to ask on the back of this. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guests, and I'm sure there might be other people from United Capital on the program this evening, the broadcast this evening. But Ejikeme Okoli is the Director for Regional Operations Africa for United Capital. And Remy Tinolu Gabriel is the Director for Retail and Digital Financial Services. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the broadcast this evening. Now, please go ahead and unmute yourselves. You should be able to do that now. Excellent. So just before we go into the presentations and all the discussions that you guys would have being experts, Ejikeme, let me start with you. I know that the market is shifting. I know that there are a lot of things out there that a lot of narratives about Nigeria that people in the diaspora have talked about. You are in the field in Nigeria. You look after operations from Africa. Tell us what you're seeing. How are things evolving in this space? Thank you very much for that introduction there. Now, I have a question that had been asked, that why did I pick United Capital? Let me just put that up front. Full disclosure, there's nothing, I'm not being paid to do this. The only reason I picked United Capital was because it was United Capital that reached out to me. They saw that we do the weekly broadcast we do on Thursdays with Professor Bolaji Akiemi, and they said, "Hey, we do this stuff. How about we collaborate on this?" And I said, "Fine, I would do it." And because I had been working on this other project that people had contributed to, that's the only reason that I picked United Capital. Um, I know that you've got some of your colleagues on here. Ayodele Akinwumi is on the broadcast this evening, and Ayodele would be sharing his screen to tell us a little bit more, and then I'll come back, I'll ask you some more questions. Now, I want you to think about this though. When this flyer went out, some people reached out to me and said, Akin, are they just going to talk about trends, or are they going to talk about where people can invest in and where people can see returns on their investment? And I said both. They're going to talk about both. They're probably going to show something. We did not collaborate on the agenda before now. You don't know the question I'm going to ask. And I can only hope that you are prepared. There are about 36, 37 people on the call right now. I hope you are prepared for the questions that will come your way. So I'd like to now shift over to Ayodele, who would now talk a little bit. Ayodele, while I bring you on, can I just ask that you don't move your screen to full screen and step through your slides this way? Welcome, Ayodele. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me and for having the Capital on this show, on this program tonight. And good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and all the listeners, all the people who are participating on this event. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm just going to please, if you can please allow me to share my screen.
We can already see your screen. Go ahead and share. Yeah. You should have rights.
No, I don't have the right to share at the moment.
All right, bear with me. I will open that up for you. All right, you've got the right to share now.
Thank you very much.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that my colleague, Ejikeme, touched on a few minutes ago on the reforms, the key reforms that the current administration in Nigeria actually initiated a few years ago, about 2.5 years ago. Immediately they assumed office. And one of it, of course, during the inauguration speech, he said the subsidy is gone. I need to also mention here that all the leading candidates run up to that election believed that we are going to, remove the subsidy because of the fact that it was a drain on the country's resources for a long time. And the subsidy was removed on PMS. And subsequent to that, today, fast forward, we see a situation whereby we have Dangote Refinery, the largest single train in the world, operational, and then Nigeria is beginning to export products across the world, while importing of finished goods, finished products, is reducing. We also have seen electricity sector reform. If there is any sector in Nigeria that has, more of a multiplier impact on other sectors of the economy, it is this sector. Most of the businesses and households don't have stable electricity supply, but then the current administration is also implementing a lot of reforms in that area. We've seen slight improvements in electricity generation and distribution. We've also seen measures, plans to actually reduce and then pay off all the legacy debts that we have in that area. I mean, towards the end of this year, from what the government is saying, that may likely be dealt with. Once that is done and we have stable electricity supply in the country, it is going to leapfrog the growth that we are seeing, and it's going to bring about, inclusive growth, where a lot of people, from the man who is running a small barbing salon and then trying to operate, find a living, and to large businesses, manufacturing businesses that rely on electricity generation to power the operation. So that is going to happen. We've also seen unification of the exchange rates. Today, inefficiencies in that sector has been removed. Dollar is now available for large manufacturers who are producing, who import raw materials into the country. And we've seen a lot of supply. And of course, for some of you who are abroad and who are sending money to Nigeria, some few months ago, you will say that the rate at which you are exchanging your money is different from the rate at which you are exchanging it today. As at last week, Friday, it was about 1,501. But then we may think, oh, it's still far from where we are. But then there is no point for any economy to have a price that is artificially sustained. It doesn't encourage, market participants to come. So the government came, all the subsidies, all the inefficiencies in that sector was removed. And then people are able to go to the market, willing buyer, willing sellers, and things are beginning to improve. And as we go into the year, as more supplies of dollars are coming in, we'll expect that more appreciation in the value of the currency. People are now, large businesses are now able to plan on their businesses without, so much problems with exchange rates. We've also seen a drive towards non-oil exports. A lot of programs are going on, a lot of incentives for the country to drive, non-oil exports, and a way to ensure that they stabilize that sector. And I've seen a lot of accretion to external reserve, also leading to the stable exchange rate I mentioned, and then appreciation in the naira. The central bank, when they came in, also the current administration have also announced recapitalization in the financial system sector. We've seen the recapitalization of banking system. We've also seen the recapitalization of the insurance sector. And all these are geared towards providing, stronger institutions that would drive growth, innovation, and an inclusion in the country. So very shortly, you'll begin to see large ticket transactions, the type you see in the US, in the UK, in all over the world, happening in Nigeria and here. And on account of that, we've also seen a lot of foreign interest in the Nigerian banking space across the world, in Middle East, in all over the world, coming into the country to take a share of the, of the banking system by way of investment. The last one I want to mention, which is not the least, perhaps the elephant in the room, is the fact that we've seen, Investments and Securities Act signed. The current leadership of the Securities and Exchange Commission is doing a lot of work, and what that has done also now is that it has increased the power and enhanced the power of the regulator in the capital market, such that now we have stronger mechanism to protect investors. And for me, if you don't get anything on this slide because of what we are here, this should be something that we should look at, to say that, yes, nobody can just go, your investment is safe in Nigeria today. There we have a stronger regulator who does not want to leave any stone unturned, and they will discipline, they will deal with any operator that are regulated, and they are also going after all the people who are operating illegal investment schemes in the country, and therefore your investment is safe. What are some of the outcomes of the reforms that we have seen? we've seen stronger growth in GDP. The GDP number that was released in Q1 was the highest in the last 4 quarters, in the last three thereabout years. We've also seen declining inflation. I think my colleague alluded to that earlier, Ejike, when he was talking about the strong growth. IMF has also seen this, and they have even revised our growth forecast for this year. And so we've seen declining inflation today. Inflation for the month of August was released, and now towards 20%, about 20.12 thereabout, from 21.8 in the month of July. This is also very good because as time goes on, one of the complaints that we have had from manufacturers is that, exchange rate, interest rate is quite high. But by the time you begin to see inflation dropping, the fifth month of deceleration now, what we're going to say is that the monetary policy committee may likely reduce rates and then allow people to access funds at a lower rates, and then activities will spring up. Like I mentioned earlier, we've also seen stable exchange rates. Between the last few months, we've seen stability and even appreciation. As the gain continues, what we are seeing is that more funds will be coming to the country, and then that will also add more funds in terms of investment. Trades is increasing, capital flow is increasing, and therefore currency will appreciate, so that the risk of currency devaluation on your investments will be removed. We have also seen a lot of, and all these things has led to huge foreign investors coming to Nigeria. If you see, I think around July this year, the Nigerian Stock Exchange recorded the highest, capital inflow from foreign investors in that market. In terms of the investment in, treasury bill, fixed income securities, we've seen huge amount of interest from foreign investors and Nigerian in diaspora all over the world coming in. Also, of course, the current president is doing a very good job by being the chief marketing officer of the country. Anywhere he goes to, he has meetings with the Nigerian diaspora, and then discuss with them what he is doing, what the current administration is doing, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, if you ask me, just like the moderator said earlier, people talk about, there are problems in the country, the investment is not safe, exchange rate devaluation makes them not to lose a lot of money, and all of those things that we hear. But then we usually show things to people, hard facts. Yes, we see those problems are there. There are massive, huge opportunities in the country. Some of the concerns that people have in terms of currency devaluation are being addressed, and just like I mentioned earlier, going forward. But even in the midst of what has happened in the last 3 years, we've looked at returns that a lot of investors have earned in the market. One of the things that we have done in this simple illustration is to look at, if you had brought in 1 million naira on the 2nd of January 2020, and as at today, what is the value of the investments? And if you had brought it, and if you have looked at the investments in inflation, use inflation and invest in some few stocks like this, what we have, and what is the return, and how does it compare with the naira, with the dollar and the investments, and then how does it compare also with even inflation that we have in Nigeria? We saw that all these 5 companies that we selected, across various sectors, banking, healthcare, agriculture, oil and gas, and even our own company, United Capital, clearly outperformed both inflation and even dollar investments. In other words, you brought in a dollar that you exchanged in 2020, January 2nd. And then, despite the fact that the dollar lost value, you invested that money at, say, 10%, and you compound it on an annual basis for that period. Now, and that same period, you invested 1 million naira on all these companies, and all the dividend that you earned from UBA, from Fitson, from Okomun, from Seplat, from United Capital, you did not take it out. You reinvested it in those companies on the day that those dividends were received. these are the return. So 1 million by exchange rate has dropped down to, by inflation has dropped out about 3.2 million naira. In other words, once you return lower than that, inflation has shocked your money. But again, by devaluation effect, with 10% return on dollar investments, the money grew to, up to today, grew to 7.1 million. But then if you had invested that same money in UBA stocks at that period, all the dividend you earn, you reinvested it back. That is, you invested it back and you compound it. What you have gotten is 13.2 million. That means you have real return over both inflation and the exchange rate. In fixing, 20 million. On Seplat, 47 million. That means you got more than over 40 million. But in the capital, over 60 million. That was, in real return, you got much more than 50 million. So really, the story is not as horrible, as bad as people, trying to portend. And that's what we are trying to show with this. And we chose these companies across various sectors of the economy. And then what, again, is the current investment landscape today? So you say that we have, in federal government bonds, that we have, people usually call it risk-free investment. In other words, government will also meet its obligations. Yes, I know that there are some countries around West Africa, even a developed country, that they have defaulted. But then, Nigerian government has not defaulted. The current debt to GDP ratio is in the region of 52. For IMF and DMO says we can do 62. So we are still lower than what we should get to. Now, Treasury bill at 21%, the last auction. If you had invested the money or go federal government, Euro bonds, dollar investment, 7.32, and this is far higher than what most of you who are living abroad are getting on your, on your savings abroad. So you can bring it here, and government has made things a bit easier for us to ensure that you can easily bring in your money here. They are doing, PVN for in diaspora and all of those initiatives. Commercial paper today, we are seeing yield as high as 24 to 26%. But like I mentioned, as inflation begins to drop, then some of those yield will also drop a little bit. Mutual fund, up to today, year to date, we've seen some of them, depending on the kind of asset classes that you invest in, yielding between 18.88 and 41.64. And so, depending on the asset class that you invest in, that mutual funds, and then even equities market, by today, we have seen that the Nigerian all share index returning 37.63%. So these are real and factual figures. And like I said, people are taking advantage of these opportunities, and they are saying things are going well, things are moving in the right direction. So we just want to showcase some of these things and things that are doable, that are good, that are happening in Nigeria. And just like Ejike said, we admonish you, we encourage you to come. As we go into next year, things are going to be far better than this. And that's what I will say. I know there will be a lot of questions and answers that I will provide more details to as time goes by. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ayodele, for your presentation. I think that has been very insightful, particularly one of your graphs that showed the upward trajectory depending on where you had invested your funds. Ejikeme, let me come to you. We've got people in the diaspora watching this program. We've seen that upward growth. Why should we think that the growth would be sustained for the future? I know Ayodele has talked about all these things, but we're still scared. We don't want to put our money into the market and then find out that in a few years from now, that money has evaporated. Convince the people who are in the diaspora here that this growth trajectory is going to continue for the foreseeable future. Let me ask you a question here, Ejike. Let me ask you a question there. You talk about two key things, or three key points here that I want to pull out. You talk about the asset class. Ayodele talked about that too. That determines what the returns would be. Um, you talk about foreign investment, which is also key. How much of the growth that we're seeing is driven by the foreign investment that has come in? And what happens when these people decide to pull their money out? Is there a risk of that happening? Is the economy itself strong enough to withstand the exit of these foreign players? Thank you very much for that. Before we talk about some of the other areas, maybe people want to connect with you guys to find out more information about what you do. I don't know if Ayodele has a slide to show at the end that people can reach out to you with details of, if they need more information. But Ayodele and any other of your team that are on the broadcast, feel free to put that in the chat window so people can reach out to you directly if they need help with some of the things you are talking about. That I think would be helpful later on down the line. We'll come to that when we get to the question and answer bit. But there is a particular piece that I want to touch on, and it may be that Oluremi is the one that's going to deal with this. I'm fundamentally a technology person. I look after technology across almost 40 countries. And I know what it's like and what an accelerator technology can be for businesses and also from a transformational point of view. So my question to you is this, and feel free to defer if there's someone else on your team that can answer this, is my concern has always been that the infrastructure in Nigeria may not give us the right level of stability within the technology platforms. I've been on different, I wouldn't mention names here, I'm not going to name and shame, but I've been on different banking platforms where those platforms just go down, they just don't work. I've been used for the last 15, 20 years. You pick up your phone, you log into your account, and you get straight in. You can see the details. And on multiple occasions, not you guys, obviously, not you guys, but some of these other banks, those platforms just go down. And it worries me, okay, that if they're not putting in enough due diligence to the technology platforms that they've got, what diligence are they putting into cybersecurity? What diligence are they putting into other areas? Like I said, you can defer this question because we're going to move to maybe your tech platform in a minute. But how would you respond to that question or the concern?
and you can start even today. So if you scan this QR code right now, it takes you straight to a web payment engine, a web page where you can simply register within 2 or 3 minutes. And with that, you have the leg in to understand what are we talking about, the money market that Ayodele talked about, Ejikeme also talked about it. You want to go into securities, you're also able to do that. And with these simple steps, you can, whether you want to fund your investment, start your investment in your existing currency, or you want to invest in Naira, because from what we have told you, the future value of your FX might be lower than what it is now, because right now, Naira is stable and it's even appreciating against the foreign currencies. So when you register with these simple 2, 3 steps, you go to the store and download the app that is called Invest Now, and that's how it looks like. And with that, on a daily basis, on the mobile app, you can see your investment and you can see the return on your investment. Every day, based on the rate of that day, you see what you have invested. Your capital is there, it's secured, but you see the interest that also accrued to your investment. And passing without calling anybody, you can add to your investment and you can also withdraw from your investment. Now, this is investment, it's not savings. However, we have made it so simple that instead of leaving, and this is what I like to tell people, especially, if you understand the Nigerian market. So today, if you have a current account, based on the way current account is, you are not entitled to any form of return. If you have a savings account and you do not withdraw more than 3 times in a month, you get some form of return depending on the prevailing rate, maybe 8%. However, if you put that same money in the money market, you get between 19 to 22% per annum as interest. So what are we saying? Why leave your money idle when your money can work for you? So this is how you make your money work for you. Any idle fund you have, just put it in the money market. You will you monitor it from your mobile app, and then you see your money grow. And if you want to go to other type of investment, like Ayodele and Ejikeme also talked about, into security, you want to buy shares and stock by yourself, you don't need anybody. You can come in when the market is opened. You know the shares and stocks you want to buy, you buy yourself. When you want to sell, you sell by yourself, and the money goes to your wallet, and you can withdraw it into your bank account. It's as simple as that. And so with this simple scan, you're able to do your quick registration, and then you can see your money grow. Even as you fund today, from tomorrow, the next working day, you start to see the interest or the return on your investment, and every day you can see it grow going forward.
Audio. Hopefully, YouTube, please let me know if you still have a problem with audio, and we'll address that. I'll get someone on the team to look into that for you. 2 questions I have for you. I think it was last week, we had the news that Ethiopia had just commissioned the dam that they had built over the Nile. I know that there are political ramifications to that, but it struck me that some reports say there was a drive locally to invest in that particular project within Ethiopia, and that was one of the things that led to it, that there was no foreign investment involved in that. how competitive is the Nigerian market compared to other African markets? I know we've got the size factor in Nigeria, but how competitive is it?
Countries at this time, largely because of one major factor, which is a stable exchange rate. Now, when investors compare different markets that they would rather have their financial resources work, it will be the average return on some of the stats Ayodele also reeled out, risk-free investments, which include government securities, your average return on fixed deposits, which or savings rate, like Oluremi rightfully mentioned. And to take it a step further, you also look at money market rates. But more importantly, the defining factor that ultimately allows the investor make a discerning decision will be around the exchange rate. For how foreseeable in the future can you plan with, an estimated exchange rate when comparing investments, across countries? Today, Nigeria is amongst the most competitive investment destinations, largely because at this point, our interest rates are still amongst the highest, at least amongst other emerging economies, probably even higher than neighboring African countries. But that's because, the country has been plagued with very high inflation, double-digit inflation for almost a decade. Since 2015, 2016, inflation hasn't, waned to single digits. So that's dealing with a decade of extraordinarily high prices. But while that allows for policymakers, monetary policy committee decision makers to, increase interest rates just so you can mop up liquidity from financial markets in the bid to control inflation. What that also does, it creates attractive investment outlets for discerning investors. But for foreign investors, the key catch will my return on investment be higher than a potential devaluation in your currency? Once that equation or the potential answer is yes, then it means the country will remain a strong investment destination. And at this moment in time, it's a capital YES because exchange rate is stable and interest rates are still, you heard Oluremi say, between 18 to 21% in money market instruments. So that's as good as having your £10, $10, $100, $1,000 yield 21%, per annum for you, as long as the exchange rate remains stable. So a high or devaluation of currency is the biggest challenge Nigeria has faced, in the last decade, going through two recessions in the last 12 years, 2016, 2020, battling with very high exchange rate. Our economy had to swallow just so that the economy could find other ways to be resilient outside of oil, which has been a major FX earner. Today, we have the oil and gas sector undergo reforms because we see the Dangote refinery. I think Remy Ayodele also presented that we have the biggest oil refinery, in the whole of West Africa. Enough to provide feed Nigerians with reduce our biggest import item, which used to be petroleum products. So that's also contributing to the stable exchange rates, that we're seeing now. So Nigeria is highly, highly competitive, so long as the government keeps these other key parameters in check, which is inflation must continue to go down. So there are no fears of currency devaluation. Exchange rate remains stable, and interest rates are still decent enough
such that there's still a premium, compared to other advanced economies. And other advanced economies, maybe because of their own woes, is also playing into our hands now, and the government is taking full advantage of that. And it's only left for all of us to build this country, because in terms of where the world is shifting to, we have the human capacity, we have the brain power, we have the population. And at this point in time, it seems like everything is coming to place while the rest of the world is struggling with its own issues. So I think Nigeria is a great investment destination at this time among so many other emerging economies.
All right, fantastic. Now, everyone, you've had the presentation, you have the discussions. If you have any questions, please raise up your hand, and the floor is now open for questions. If you've got any question, raise. Okay, I can see one hand raised, Toby Godson. Go ahead and ask your question. But if you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, that would be appreciated, because I may not be able to see all the hands that are raised on camera. Toby Godson, go ahead.
Thank you, Akian. Great program today. Really appreciate having us here. Quite a few of us have joined. And thank you to the team from United Capital for the presentation so far. My question, though, is, with the presentation you've shown us so far and the growth you've shown, how resilient is this investment against currency depreciation? So will it still be profitable for diasporans in, say, 1, 3, or 5 years for someone investing in dollars or pounds? Will we be able to get a profit from our pounds, or will it only be a growth in Naira depending on the currency exchange?
Can I take that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Ayodele also has great answers as well. So we'll take it from the way I see it. Yes, you will be profitable, and that depends on how you choose to deploy your investments. If you want to go the risk-free approach, like, what, I don't want to incur any losses on currency devaluation. If you even look at the returns I like to use the dollar because that's our main export and trading currency. The current return on USD at this time, at least even from Ayo's presentation, the Nigerian Euro bonds are yielding very high coupons between 7 and 10% on 5-year instruments. And you won't see any of that in any advanced economy, not even the US. US, even 10-year treasuries, 15-year treasuries are nowhere near 7, 8% yield levels. So without taking any currency risk, it shows that your investment, at least back home, in the same currency will yield very decent returns. Now, if you choose to take the currency risk of going into the Naira, which at least the economic climb at this time shows that that's the logical thing to do, even though for starters, it would be good to start out with these kinds of investments for a shorter term. So you can pace your investments to say, okay, rather than do 5 years at a stretch, can I do a 3-month, investment in, say, a money market fund or a fixed placement? Yeah, that should still give you between 17 and 19%. And after 90 days, you look at it, okay, where's the currency? If I have to buy back my pounds now, in the next 3 months, we don't see the Nigerian exchange rate being under pressure, largely because of all that's going on at this time. Then you can stretch a bit further, because at least that's what the discerning investors will do. As much as we are very positive at this time, around the Nigerian story, it's not just because we are Nigerians, but there are data sets to show that the economy is actually turning a corner. And it's at that point of inflection that's always a good time, to invest. It's more like taking first mover advantage when growth is about to happen. But in managing your risk, for those of you who may not have the time to keep checking, oh, what's exchange rates today? You know, you can't keep you have your day jobs and all, and you're not all finance persons. So a logical thing to do will be you either start out in the currency of your earnings, so you don't take too much currency risk. But if you must take currency risk, which we recommend you do at this time, you can pace it from shorter term and then you allow it go into the longer term. So rather than doing 5 years at a stretch, you can start with between 90 days to 6 months so that you are encouraged by the returns you get and then now decide if you want to go further or if you're fine with what you've earned. But the good thing is, for those, you can even choose to change your investment objectives. So while most of your active expenses may still be in foreign currency because of where you live, work, and earn, if you have obligations back home or you have planned projects, this is also a great way, to have money aside strictly for those purposes so that you are not always under pressure to want to liquidate an investment and convert back. So it's more like you could choose to start your investments over a shorter term, or if you must expose it to longer tenors, make sure the objective is for a Naira denominated obligation. Maybe you want to build your house, it's um, operational expenses for relatives, it's bills to settle that are in Naira. So that way, it's like you've created an investment vehicle that just sorts out expenses into the foreseeable future, most especially because interest rates are high. And that way, there's less stress on your active earning capacity. So it's different ways to achieve the same goal and ensuring that it's profitable, taking calculated risks, and more importantly, taking advantage of the economy, which is at an inflection point. Thank you.
All right, I can see two hands raised. Oba Adebayo Adenekon. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sincerely, today has been a day of investment for me for listening to you guys speak about we investing in Nigeria. I'm a keen Nigerian man who wants to invest back home, and sincerely, I'm happy to hear all of this. My question is this: with all of this said, with all of a lot of people going to still ask questions, now there is a recent publication which I've been following about the issue of the TIN and matters like that. If you don't have it, you can't open a bank account, you can do this. How does that affect, especially we in the diaspora, investing in Nigeria? If it goes that way, then it means we may not have access to Nigeria investment. I need light on that. Thank you.
Interesting. I don't know which one of you guys will pick that, but interestingly, I did see another disclaimer from the Federal Inland Revenue Service to say that that piece of information was not true. But your question is right. What happens if in the future the government decides they want to go down that route? So it's more a hypothetical question, I think, than something that's actually materialized. At the moment, the publication from the FIRS said that that was not correct. Ejikeme, do you want to take that response as well? You guys would know a lot more about that.
Okay, maybe Remy can start. I'll just close. I think his hand was up before mine.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Chikeme. Thank you. Very interesting question. I've also, a number of my people also in diaspora have asked that question, that was happening to our bank account. Okay, so first thing first, we are still taking learnings and trying to confirm, just like Akin also alluded to, the authenticity of that, or what the position will be by January 2026. However, I dropped a link on the group, on the chat group, where you can register if you do not have a team. The good thing is that a good number of Nigerians already have BVN, which is the primary requirement you need. If you have a BVN, you're also able to generate your team. So you can just as it was when the BVN thing started, But eventually, we know now that Nigerians in diaspora can go to the embassies and register, and I've worked, even my years working in my former world, I've helped a number of customers to register for BVN. So it's something we are following. We are following the story, but there is no harm if you just try it out, try the link, put your BVN and generate your thing if you do not have before you left Nigeria. And then, of course, as we get the information gets clearer, and also come back and share details of how we believe it's going to run. But on the long run, in the short run, is to, as much as possible, get it. I mean, you're operating your account right now, but if you are able to get it registered, do. If not, we can reach out. We will also, as we are getting the information, we'll also be able to support you to see how we can quickly close that gap. But basically, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I don't think it's going to be a concern on the long run. But the link is there. Drop it on the chat group, and you can just use it to register yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ejikeme. You wanted to say something as well?
Yes, Remy has said it all. It's not a game changer. It's not a deal breaker. What we are even talking to you about today is about investment, not necessarily opening a commercial bank account. So the United Capital is regulated by Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulates, all investments in Nigerian capital markets, across board, and its requirements for operating an investment account in the country is largely a government-issued ID, which is your national identification number, ID card, voters card, passport, and then, of course, proof of address. So for our brothers in the diaspora, it's just to have your proof of address, recent utility bill, etc., and just have it notarized by a public notary. And voila, that's it. If you so have a tax identification number, then that just adds additional details to your KYC. All the SEC is interested in is that you're responsible citizens whose identity can always be tracked. And even in terms of anti-money laundering requirements, TIN, it has never been a major requirement for opening and operating an investment account. So as long as you have everything that identifies you as, a responsible citizen of any country, whether Nigeria or outside here, government issued ID, proof of address, that should be fine. For corporate accounts, it will still be directors' signatories, directors and signatories to the account, in addition to incorporation documents. Yeah, thanks. So it's not a game changer.
One question that I want to ask, and this might not be unique to yourselves, and I can see a comment in the chat that actually calls this out. Some of these platforms we have are not diaspora friendly. Okay, a basic type of question is you want to put in your employment details, for example, and it doesn't allow you to put a foreign address. Okay, so how do you intend to ensure that the Nigerian diaspora is huge? We're all over the place. How do you ensure that you effectively accommodate people from all the different countries that they may be coming from to do this? So that's point number one. Point number two, from a marketing point of view, right? When stakeholders are coming from these different places to say, I've got a problem, the platform is not working, what kind of support would those people have? Oluremi, I can see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Valid. So I hear you, and I understand clearly what you're talking to. So what we have done right now, and in the next couple of weeks, we are rolling out an update on Investor Now to capture that, working with an organization that will that's in about 205 countries. So we are sure most of the countries will be captured. In the meantime, what we have done is to relax that functionality. So any other address you put there, so far you have a valid BVN, and first of the BVN is going to pull out your basic information at the point of registration. So we're able to capture, and we'll reach out to you to ensure you close that. So that gap has been noticed, and we have actually worked on it, and it's something we'll be closing in the next 1 or 2 weeks, working with an institution that's coverage in over 200 countries. So that will solve the problem.
Okay, there is one more question, and maybe after this we'll take one more and then bring the broadcast to an end. Okpayemi says, is there an investment protection policy in place?
Okay, maybe I should take that.
Okay, go ahead.
Take that. I wanted to end on Remi's last point for Nigerians in the diaspora. Maybe perhaps we can still get in touch with Akin. The alternative we have to the online platform, we have online forms as well that are editable, not paper. So you can always key in your addresses in that and send us the supporting documents. Your account will be opened, as well, pending when on the online side, because that's public and of course monitored by regulation, but we will still sort that out as Remi has mentioned. But the interim, we have online forms that interested parties can always complete, and they'll be onboarded within 48 hours and start investing. Regarding investment protection policy in place, yes, definitely. The first investment protection every discerning investor must be wary of is the kind of institution that you are dealing with. For United Capital, though we didn't talk much about the firm, understandably, United Capital has been in existence for over 6 decades, starting out as a desk in the then United Bank for Africa, and has morphed today to become, standalone, publicly listed, investment grade financial institution. So investors who we manage their assets can be assured of best-in-class advisory, the best risk management practices to ensure that all stakeholders are protected, and even exposing you to the risks and returns in terms of balancing risk and returns when investing in any capital market investment. Ideally, the Securities and Exchange Commissions across the world do not allow capital market offerings offer guaranteed returns because markets are volatile, and that's where risk and return also comes in. So the first protection you need is dealing with the right type of institution, which is what we are. To take it a step further, depending on the type of investment that the investor is interested in. So if you are the kind of investor who's risk averse, then you stay away from investments that, in the course of its cycle, it's prone to volatility. So I would not recommend a risk-averse investor, for example, who invests in equities, because today it's up, tomorrow it can be down. But in the long term, it's one of the best, highest returning asset classes you can. Even looking at United Capital, looking at our 11-year trajectory, we've grown from a 12 billion naira institution in 2013 when we got listed. Today, market capitalization is over 367 billion naira. Have there been ups and downs during that entire cycle? Yes, certainly. So the first thing we must do is understand the risk appetite of the investor. Sometimes it has to do with age. Other times it has to do with financial literacy. Other times it deals with what your investment goals are and what time frame you think you have, to have your investments exposed to markets. But ideally, the longer you are in a financial market, the higher the chances that you would milk all the returns that markets have to offer. So in terms of investment policy, we are an investment grade institution that will not lead you to investments that do not match your risk appetite. I think that's the ultimate policy. However, there are also products that have insurance elements backed into it. So we work with partners as well. Some of our products are insured. Sometimes clients may want to be more sophisticated to say, hey, I am making this investment with you, but I'll take up an insurance premium to ensure maybe my principal is protected, so that regardless of whatever happens, at least I'm sure of the original amount I put in. So yes, it can go from simple to sophisticated, but the very first thing is to understand your risk appetite and stay away from investments that do not match that. And that is where we come in to ensure we guide you in making the right types of investments that fit your investment goals and objectives and your risk appetite as well. So maybe I should leave it at that. This is who we are. 7 subsidiaries, different kinds of investments we can connect you to, from mutual funds offered by our asset management business, to private trusts for those who are seeking intergenerational wealth transfer or seeking to just protect your assets, whether it's investments, real estate, property, title documents, shares, stocks, bonds, everything you consider valuables. A trustee service is what we offer to ensure that we manage those assets on your behalf and ensure that they are transferred to any of your named beneficiaries in the manner that you want them to. Our securities business will connect you to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, as well as the exchange on the BRVM, which is the Francophone African Stock Exchange as well. We have a bank that provides instant salary loans and other types of consumer loans for retail institutions, retail customers. We also offer investment-backed loans, which banks do not offer, but because of our regulation, we are allowed to do that, meaning you may have your dollars invested with us, and on the back of that, take a Naira facility just to meet short-term obligations without having to liquidate, your investment. We have a wealth management business that connects investors with opportunities globally. So not just the Nigerian market now. If we see opportunities in China, in Switzerland, in Germany, the Euro area, USD countries, Africa, across board. So we're always scouting for the best kinds of opportunities for clients who do not want to limit their investment exposure to a particular jurisdiction, because it's also a way of diversifying risk and ensuring that you're getting the best returns from what a global portfolio can offer. And of course, we have United Capital Africa, which purely manages our international expansion and taking advantage of our unique position across African markets, bridging the gap between Nigeria and other African countries by ensuring capital flows within and outside the country, fostering regional trade, and making sure that we're getting the best from the economies that are around us, and we can foster a lot more economic integration, because the world is becoming a global village, and Africa as its own is becoming more regionally integrated. So that way, we are able to protect our customers or our clients from shocks within a particular economy and expose them to other areas where we think they can also get more bang for their buck. And finally, we have an investment banking business which deals with capital raising for those of you who may have businesses that you're seeking different kinds of capital. We can also help with that. So this is United Capital in a nutshell, and we are very happy to have given this opportunity to speak to brothers and sisters outside the country. I hope you see what we see in-house. Bring your resources home at this time, not just for sentimental reasons, but we're tired of making money for foreigners, and our brothers and sisters may not always have these opportunities. So thank you for the opportunity, and Ayo, Oluremi, and I are always at your beck and call anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys, for your time this evening. I think it's been very insightful for me. I know people will have loads of questions. If people want to reach out to you guys, some of the details are already in the chat. Or if you reach out to me, let me know. I'll point you in the right direction. Most of you either would have received the details via WhatsApp or send the flyer. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@tmeinsights.com. And what we say to ourselves from a TME Insights point of view is that this is where thought leaders converge. Whether we're talking finance, whether we're talking politics, whether we're talking foreign relations, whether we're talking media, this is where we get the best minds in the game to come in and talk about things in a constructive manner, away from all the fluff that you would normally get with some of these kind of events. And we also go the extra mile to try to make the production good enough and meet international standards. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everyone that's been here. I called you out, guys, on one point earlier on. I'm going to call you out again. I must call out the point. Next time I have you guys here, I would love to see a woman as part of the team that come in here to present to us. That is important.
Very well noted. It's in line with us.
That is important. I know we'll do this again at some point. There would be more conversations to have, but make sure that happens. On that note, thank you, everyone. And good night.
Night, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye, 7.
Thank you.
Thank you, Akin.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Night.